Hey, so this is a good example to go over, just that goes through all the steps of the completing the square, and it's also an application problem. When we complete the square, we're basically trying to find a way to make this a perfect square trinomial that we can factor. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with these first two terms, and we want to factor out the greatest common factor of the coefficients. And if we have a negative, we want to take that negative out too. So the largest number that divides evenly into -4 and 24 is -4. So I'm going to factor out -4, keep the parentheses, and I'm left with x squared, and then positive 24 divided by -4 is -6. And then we'll just bring down the -29. Then from there, we want to do the completing the square process. So I always set it up this way. -4, we'll just bring it down. Copy down the x squared. There should be an x here, sorry about that. -6x plus blank. We're going to put something there. Copy down the -29. And then we're going to have another blank over here that we're going to subtract away. So if we're going to add something in, we also have to subtract something away, because we can't just go willy-nilly changing the problem however we want. We have to follow all math rules and laws. So now from here, I have to decide what number completes the square. So the number that completes the square is always found by doing b over 2 squared. And b is the number in front of the x. So in this case, we will have -6 divided by 2 squared. -6 divided by 2 is -3 squared. And -3 squared is 9, positive 9. Now, we want to use that positive 9 here, but we also want to keep our eye on this -3. We're going to use him later. He's important. So I'm going to put a star next to him so I don't forget that he's an important part of this problem. So I'm going to put my 9 here. Okay, and so I've added 9 to the parentheses. And now I have to subtract it away. But I'm not just going to subtract away 9, because that 9 really has a -4 being multiplied by it. So I have to take that -4 into account. So 9 times -4 is -36. So I have to subtract away -36. So once I complete that process, I'm almost there. Now it's just cleaning up the equation. So I have -4, and then this is the square part. We're going to complete the square. The square root of x squared is always x. And the square root of 9 is 3. This is a plus sign, and that's negative, so it tells me that this has to be a -3 when I do it. But what's good to know, if I forget, is that this number here is always the same as this number here. So I started. So if I have like a funky decimal or something later in, in a different problem, and I'm like, well, how are you supposed to figure out what the multiple of 6.25 is, or something weird? It's no problem, because you just go back to when you divided, and this number is always the number that goes here. Okay, so I'm almost done now. So I have -29 minus a negative is really plus 36. And then we're going to just combine those. So 36 minus 29 should give us, I think that should be plus 7. So my final answer would be f of x equals -4 x minus 3 squared. Sorry about that. X minus 3 squared plus 7. And then in the context of this problem, it says x is the distance from the spout and 7 is the height. And so this is really the vertex form of a parabola. So 3 would be my distance, and then it would make it the maximum height of 7 8.7 feet. So that's just a little tidbit extra information that you would use in the application problem. So one more time through the process, factor out from the first two terms, find what number you need to complete the square by doing b over 2 squared, factor that into a perfect square, and then remember when you add in that 9, check to see what's on the outside of it so that you can add or subtract it from the end, and then from there you're just simplifying until you have your final answer. Hope this helps.